Hey guys, it's Joel here, and I have the incredible privilege of serving in the missions department at Cross Points Church. But another one of my great joys is getting to write in my spare time, specifically poetry. And with everything going on with COVID-19 and this quarantine, I feel like I've had more time to do that. And so I wanted to invite you guys in on this joy of mine. I've had people ask me, what is poetry? How would you define it? It's got to be more about rhyming words. And even though, that's part of it, it is about a lot more than rhyming words. I've heard it said poetry is about telling the truth. I've heard it said poetry is about seeing beauty and saying beautifully. And I think there's a lot of truth to both of those things. I think that in one way, poetry is least about being economical, even though by its very structure, right, poems are generally smaller than prose pieces, but I think those lines really have to make the most of the space that they're given. So while a lot of people might say, I'm anxious, or I'm stressed in times like these, right? Paige Lewis will say, I feel as if I'm on the moon and I can hear the air hissing through the hole in my spacesuit. I'm the vice president of panic and the president is missing. So a few weeks into my move here, I penned these words that can be found in my book, After All. I said, my second Sunday in Kansas City, I heard a sermon about a caved-in roof, a paralyzed man, and 4 friends that lowered him in front of the only one that could bring him true healing. Jesus saw their faith, healed their friend. The Greek there, our pastor said, was plural. He then went on to recall the countless times he had seen people stand beside each other and the difference that it makes. I thought of my parents and the people that prayed alongside them when strangers said that they were infertile because they didn't have enough faith. Now, one goal in this poem is to have different sounds help carry each line. So you can see alliteration prominent throughout. From the very beginning, I say my second Sunday in Kansas City, right? And then as I go on to talk about Pastor David Jones's sermon, I say the Greek there, our pastor said, was plural. And then I talk about my parents and the people that prayed alongside them. But the real direct rhymes that you see are few and far between. I do talk about faith at the very beginning, and then I talk about the difference that it makes having people around you. And then again, a few lines down, I talk about faith in the context of people telling my parents that that was the problem that they were having. And so these words are sort of highlighted through the rhymes, even the slant rhymes. I'm sort of hopefully drawing them out so that they catch your attention as you continue to read down the page. And I think in writing, you should be able to have fun with it, even when you're talking about serious topics. I say here, the small group at the door of his wife that night with dinner and excess Kleenex to cry and laugh over old stories he's no longer there to remember with her. So the subject matter there is sort of sobering, but at the same time, like life, I think there should be these little moments of joy sprinkled throughout. People that are laughing over old stories at a funeral. It's not that they're disrespecting what should be grieved, but it's that in a strange way, especially we who have hope in Christ can find joy in that process. And I think that excess Kleenex on a simple level is just fun to say. It's fun to write. It's fun to read. So yeah, that's a little bit of an insight on one of my poems, again, from After All. Here's the best part, you guys. You have access to the best poetry ever written. Did you know that 1/3 of the biblical text is written in poetry? And because poetry is more about showing than telling, to play myself out, I'm going to read a portion from Psalm 36. And I just want you to take in these words and the different ways that they point to the glory of our God. So this is Psalm 36, verse 5, and I'm reading till the end of verse 9. Your steadfast love, O Lord, extends to the heavens, your faithfulness to the clouds. Your righteousness is like the mountains of God. Your judgment are like the great deep. Man and beast you save, O Lord. How precious is your steadfast love, O God. The children of mankind take refuge in the shadows of your wings. They feast on the abundance of your house, and you give them drink from the river of your delights. With you is the fountain of life, and in your light do we see light.
And for those of you a little bit more interested in learning about poetry, I would recommend the Bible Project's podcast series on biblical poetry, and then Tracy K. Smith's podcast, The Slowdown.